We'll walk you through that in a second here. Good morning, one and all. Welcome to Wake Up Real Estate. It's a Thursday. Thursday, we typically do tech tips, and this is a follow-up to our show, I think 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Where I was talking about local Falcon. I had heard on a podcast somebody talking about it as a way or a tool to help optimize your Google business listing, get more organic leads, specifically on the real estate side. The exciting thing there is organic leads from Google tend to close at a drastically higher rate than cold leads that you might be buying with Google pay-per-click or Facebook ads, etc. Typically in the 15, 20, 25% range. So I think we'd all want more of those. And so Mike at Local Falcon was good enough to agree to come on here. I signed up for a demo. And then this morning I was like, hey, Mike, you mind just...
In case you're wondering, this is actually on a podcast on a live stream.
So Mike's being a good sport here. I think what we're going to do is use my Google business listing as sort of the demo example here. And selfishly, I was going to do the demo regardless. I figured, why don't we share with everybody and let everybody benefit from that demo? So, as a jumping off point, what we're going to do is just demo Local Falcon and the different functions and benefits of why you might check it out. You can get a free. You can sign up for free to check it out, and they'll scan your Google business listing, and they'll let you know where you kind of rank currently and things of that nature. But if you want to take it deeper and get some more actionable ideas and so forth, I think that's more what we're going to be exploring here, if that's fair to say. Mike, is that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. We have
and I had already hit the go live button when you were asking about, can I share my screen? You can share your screen. If you hit the present, you should be able to then choose. You can choose entire screen, or there's a number of different options there.
Share screen, entire screen, and then I'm going to pull over here. I didn't have your stuff up, by the way. I didn't have yours to use as the demo.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Standard
demo kind of setup here. As long as that's cool with me to move forward on.
Absolutely.
As you said, Local Falcon is a tool that is used to understand where you are and are not showing up in the local pack, right? And the base functionality is to kind of do a one-off scan, right? This was the core tool that was originally released years ago. It still exists within the system. It's where you choose a location you want to scan, a keyword that is valuable to you, and then you just hit run a scan. You can change kind of how far out you want to look, and then kind of how dense the grid is. I like to keep at least a mile in between these pins, and I put up a piece of content to kind of show how to get to the distance between these pins, right? So you just hit run a scan, and the system goes through and it actually scans each one of these dots, right? And so you'll see them show up here, and it goes there, it searches that keyword, and then it grabs the entire list of people that showed up and lets us use that to create ranking reports of, if you're physically standing here, you're number 2 on the list. If you're physically standing here, you're number 1 on the list. And if you're physically standing here, you're 12 on the list, right? And that's the base, that's grid tracking is what that's referred to. And that's kind of the core functionality of Local Falcon at its most granular level, or at its most infancy level, right? And as this finishes, I'll let this finish. It creates a scan report, which I've kind of prepared one prior, right? Which tells you what your average ranking position is for the scan, right? Which is basically looking at all of these pins. It just ignores anything that's 20 plus. So that one, it's ignoring that one when giving you your average ranking position. Average total ranking position is the same metric, except for it doesn't ignore 20 pluses. And this is very useful for when you have proximities that go further out. You'll see the ARP will be more of an average of how it looks for just towards the center because of that proximity aspect. right? And the ATRP, it takes in the entire grid. So looking at the pins further out versus, and the ones closer to the center point. Right. And then solve is kind of the golden standard, right? You follow solve. You want to get it to as close to 100 as humanly possible. That's how many of these pins are in a 1, a 2, or a 3. How many are in the 3-pack? And you want obviously to get that as high as humanly possible.
And Mike, so when you're talking about the 3-pack, just for those that maybe hopped on late, or just for context,
yes,
this is someone who's in, one of those areas, and they search real estate agent blank area. There will be typically three results that show up as local businesses, in this case, local real estate agents in that area. And why that's important is those tend to get a lot of the,
70% of local traffic will go to that area.
Right.
Yeah. So 70% of someone that does a Google search and says, oh, I need a real estate agent near me, or something similar to local intent, 70% of the traffic is going to those first 3 results.
So the way to think about it is, if you're not one of the top 3, it's almost as if you don't exist, right, in that search.
Right.
And so if you want to have any chance of winning, the goal is getting into that top 3.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect.
Yeah. So those are the top level metrics, right? And I was doing the 7x7. I showed you how you can change the grid, and then I was doing a 5-mile radius, just for kind of context there, right? From there, we've introduced a new tool, or a new aspect of the scan reports. Every scan report now actually has an AI analysis, which will give you a high-level overview of what it's seeing in the scan report and your competitors. It goes out and looks at the search engines and your organic results, and comes back and makes some recommendations as well, to point out that, like, hey, your top 3 competitors are using categories that you don't have listing, right? You're not using these categories. Your top 3, the 3 best in this report, are using these categories. And if they're applicable to you, you should probably entertain adding these onto your Google business listing, since the people that are dominating the area are using these categories, right? And same thing when it comes to like ratings and reviews. It'll point out like, hey, you are at a 4.6 rating, right? So let's try and get a few more 5-star reviews, because the people that are in the 3-pack all have a 4.9 on average. So it gives you, rather than just saying, oh, here's where you rank, right? It gives you some actionable items and helps you understand the information you're being provided and why you may not be in the 3-pack. And it even gets a little bit more granular when it comes to like the vulnerable competitors section, where it points out to this one on the pin to the south, where you're ranked 4, which is that one. It says you have the opportunity to outrank Verizon, who is ranked number 2, because they have a 4.6, who has a 4.6 rating with 247 reviews. The reasoning is because their location is 2.5 miles from this pin right here, while your location is just over 1.5 miles, right? So proximity, when it comes to local ranking, is one of the biggest factor by far. And since you're closer to that pin than they are, being able to pass them and take the number 1 position, or take that number 2 position away from them, is going to be easier than if you want to try and like go from 16 to 2 here, right? So that way you can go over to Verizon and see what the difference is between their listing and your listing. Like, do they have a better rating? Do they have more reviews? That kind of stuff. Rather than just, it gives you a competitor to focus on, to take over an area. Yeah. And then additionally, it points out, hey, here's a list of things you're already doing well. From there, it's just a broken down list, right? So when I say right here, okay, it gives you a competitor to target, that's where we bring in the competitor report, right? So this is the location we're scanning, and I can click this little compare locations and compare it to this second position to Verizon, right? And you can compare. And now here's a side-by-side view where I can see my ranking grid versus their ranking grid, as well as which categories they're using, which their ratings, which they have a 4.8, and how many reviews they have. So this in this example, I would assume that the T-Mobile location really needs to focus on getting each one of their clients that are happy with their experience to go leave a review so they can catch up with the Verizon store. Yeah, that's the base functionality.
Okay.
Going into multi-location use for agencies and like franchises, anyone who has more than one location, right? We created campaigns, right? And to start with those, you import all of your locations, right? And you can do that either through connecting a Google account, a CSV of the locations, or manually searching them and adding them one at a time, right? And you can group those. And for this example, I grouped by T-Mobile, and then I created a subgroup of Metro by T-Mobile. So now I have an easy way to scan a bunch of locations just by selecting a group, right? And that you would do by going into campaigns, which I created a tab here, and creating a campaign. So now you select the locations you want to scan, the keywords you want to track, the grid and radius you want to use, as well as the frequency and whether you want an automatic email to be sent out and potentially even to the client through white labeling, right? And that creates a report for you like this, right? So this has a trending view of all of the locations, right? So looking at their average ranking position, you can see a trend of how many are in the first position, how many are in the 3-pack, top 10, top 20, and 20 plus for all of the scans you've done, the numerical breakdown of those, and then the ranking issues section, right? Which points out, okay, for these scans did really well. These ones are just outside of the reach of getting into the 3-pack. So maybe focus on those first because it needs a little bit of work to push them into the 3-pack. And these ones are doing pretty bad. So you got to do some significant work if you want this location to rank well for best cell phone service near me, right? And then it breaks it down into locations. So considering all of the keywords you're tracking, how are each one of the locations doing, right? Metro versus T-Mobile. How are they doing for share of local voice? All of the ranking stats, right? And then it shows you a little visualization so you can see how they're doing. And then on top of that, it flips it and says, okay, for all the keywords you're tracking, when considering all of the locations, what are you doing best in? So obviously when somebody searches a brand name T-Mobile, that's what you're going to be showing up the best for, right? But secondary, they're doing best for cell phone store Google search at 20, right? And then it goes down the list from there. And that's how to kind of manage in bulk, right? I have a lot of locations, but when those groups come into play, I have my overall stats for T-Mobile, right? And I can see just T-Mobile now, or I can switch over and see just the Metro by T-Mobile locations, right? So you can scan all of them, but then create any variation of groups to filter the campaign to only see like, oh, how are my, and I put together a few example here. You can have a brand name like T-Mobile and then break it down like, oh, I just want to see the rural locations, how those are doing. I want to see how the city locations are doing. And then I want to see how the suburban locations are doing. Or the other example I did was, okay, I want to break it down by state. So here's Texas. And then I broke it down so I can see just how my locations in Houston are doing, stuff like that. And that's kind of the two big areas that are used most commonly, right? The scan core functionality of running a scan, looking at the scan, getting that AI analysis and understanding what to do. And then the bulk functionality, which still creates all of those scans. You'll still be able to dig down to see those AI analysis, but you're able to manage a large number of locations without having to set up every single scan one at a time.
So I'm so glad that you were on here because I didn't realize the recommendations, the report analysis and the recommendations.
They are very, very new.
So that's wonderful. So my recommendations, just full transparency, as you were talking about that, I was like playing around with mine, and it had as a major recommendation, adding some more listing categories, and a minor one, the name of my website doesn't perfectly match my Google business listing naming.
Right.
And so that creates confusion, let's say, or maybe is just not optimal.
Yeah, it's called NAP consistency, name, address, phone number consistency. So especially when you're dealing with Google business profiles, and especially when you're setting up a new Google business profile, you want to have everywhere else, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, your website, any citation where it talks about your name, address, phone number, you want all of that to be the exact same across the board. Minimal variation if it has to be, just because some platforms won't allow you to have a second phone number and you want to track phone number or something like that, right? But for the most part, you want it as accurate as possible, because Google looks at all of those, especially during the verification stage when you're creating a new Google business listing, as is this the person that they say they are? And what is my confidence level in this business, right? And that's all Google is really doing at the end of the day, especially in the local pack. It's using all of these signals like name, address, phone number, number of reviews, how many of those reviews are local, how are people putting photos up, do they have a local website, right? All of this local aspect of it, right? They're all signals to tell Google, are they confident that this listing is a good, reputable business that's still in business, right? So that still in business is the frequency. How often are you posting? When's the last time you updated the location page on your website, right? That's the frequency of like, yep, they're keeping it up to date. They're posting constantly. So I know that they have a 5-star review and all of their name, address, phone number is accurate, right? So that tells Google I'm able to confidently put this Google business listing at the top because I know that it's the right location, the right hours. They have a 5-star review, so I know that they do high quality customer service and they reply to their reviews, so they engage with their customers and their websites and anywhere the blog posts, Google business posts, right? They're all within the last 2 weeks to a month, so I know they're active and still alive. So my confidence in this location is higher than others that aren't giving me these signals. So sorry for the rant.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Let me get very much in the weeds for you. So my Google business listing name is Josh Schoenly, team, eXp Realty, real estate agent, realtor. My webpage name is Josh Schoenly, team, eXp Realty in Central PA. It is obviously easier for me to change my website name. Should I do that, or should I guess two-part question. The location identifier, Central PA, which technically that's not like it's not a city or anything. It's just a general location. Is there any relevance there? And given that scenario, should I request a change to my Google business listing name, or just do the easier switch, which is just tweak the website?
I would tweak the website, right? The website has less, it's not none, right? Obviously, but it has less of a local proximity factor to it than the Google business profile. So if you're going to have a website and you want the local aspect on your website, you want the business name to be the same, but then you can create a local pages talking about services in Central Pennsylvania and client testimonials that like, hey, I worked with this client in Central Pennsylvania, and here's what I did. Here's a video that they made for me saying how great I was, that kind of stuff. That content can help localize your services. Service area maps can help localize your services, but the business name itself, you want to stay consistent across the board. And if Erie is in your business name, then that's fine, right? But adding it on in the business name isn't exactly the best practices to tell Google, hey, here's my location, right? You really want that to be the services you offer, the work you've done, that to use that to tell Google, hey, here's where I am.
So Mark says, I Googled Mark Webster cell tones and it says profile strength looks good. Should I be doing anything to boost? Here's what I would recommend, Mark. Go do your free scan and do those. So here's what mine look like. I'll share mine. And I was listening, Mike, but I was doing the recommendations as we were on here, because I was like, hey, I'll forget if I don't do it now. But the recommendations were very easy for me to execute on. They were simply to add more categories. So I added these categories. which was commercial real estate agency, custom home builder, property management company, real estate developer. Okay. Even if, so I'll just, as I was looking at that, I was running through my mind, well, I don't necessarily do some of these things, but I'll take that call and I could refer it if it's not for me, right? Like if somebody really, I've got some great commercial realtors that I work with in the area. I have custom home builders that I work with. I have real estate developers that I work with, and EXP just added a partnership with a property management company, so I can make good on all of that. And then here was the other one. Now, this was listed as a minor thing, but it's an easy thing for me to do. So what it's saying is organic search results for your business name and address are showing, and I'll just highlight it here, Josh Schoenly team, EXP Realty in Central PA, instead of, and this is the name of my Google business listing, Josh Schoenly, EXP Realty, real estate agent, whatever that character is, the straight up and down line, realtor. So all I did in KV Core under website settings, is I changed the website title. I literally just copied and pasted so it's exactly like it is in my Google business listing. And what would be, and I don't know, either of you, is there a good way for me to send a signal to Google? Just create a new blog post and that'll
No. So you the best way to do that is to actually go to Search Console and then ask for it to be recrawled. Okay. I don't know if you guys have gone into like what Search Console is and all of that, but Search Console allows you to control what is and is not indexed on Google from your website and say, hey,
so I would go to my, that would happen on my website.
No, Search Console. So I will bring this up real quick. So it's search.google.com/Search Console. But if you just Google Search Console login.
.google.com/Search Console. I didn't spell that right, but hopefully,
Search.
Just Google Search Console.
Yeah, I think it's Search-Console, but add a little dash there. That should work.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay. So, so I pop in my URL here.
Yep. There's going to be a whole verification process on this as well. So we won't be able to kind of go through the whole visuals.
Okay. Josh, we just did this, remember? For something outside of real estate.
We did?
Yeah. For your kids' softball that you remember that website? Yeah. It's a nightmare sometimes.
Yeah. And I can here, I'll take over sharing for a second since I have it all. I got it all up real quick.
Yeah.
So folks, some of this is definitely a bit in the weeds, but it's worth doing. It's worth doing because I'm telling you, even if you just get 4 people a year that call from your Google business listing, most likely 1 out of those 4 will turn into a transaction, and the Google business listing is free. It's free. It doesn't cost anything.
The other thing is people do Google you. So you want to look legit when you start working with somebody new. They're gonna check.
100%.
So you want this profile. Yeah, you might as well optimize it, and you're gonna get a much better chance of ranking here, as everybody probably knows, than you do messing with your website SEO. I wouldn't even bother because Zillow and other parties have beat us at that, but they can't beat us locally.
Right. That's a huge benefit of the Google business profile is because of like when it comes to like local, especially in the real estate industry, but it's a lot of industries that on the website side itself, these huge players that are like Angie's Lists and other sites like that have really taken over the major keywords that have a lot of value. So being able to compete like against those guys in the local pack is just a huge value. But to show this real quick, right? So this is the new blog post I put up about the local Falcon AI, right? So if I wanted this to be recrawled, after setting up my Search Console, I just type the URL in up here. It'll tell me if it's on Google or not. And it'll show me the last time it was crawled. And this was crawled today at 3 a.m. And I can just hit request indexing and that'll go through and it'll give me a little checkbox. And then that change that you made on your local, the website for the name would then get recrawled. It typically takes 24 to 48 hours. But that way they know that the update has happened rather than Google will find it eventually if you do nothing. It's Google. That's just what they do. They crawl eternity. But this is a way to actually signal to them that you want it done.
Yeah. Kathy asked, what is the link? It's localfalcon.com. Local, L-O-C-A-L, Falcon, Falcon.com. You can go and check it out and do the scan for free. I mean, you have to create an account, and you have to create an account, and then you have to tell it which Google account your Google business listing is under, and then you have to pick the listing and let it scan. But it's pretty easy to do, and it takes literally minutes.
Yeah,
and
we're going to be updating that onboarding process too, but it does still take you through the initial scan to like, hey, add your business, choose a keyword that is valuable to you, and then run a scan, and it'll show you that.
Beautiful. Anything else, Mike, that would be useful, relevant, important, and maybe in particular for our industry, real estate agents, realtor, even mortgage?
I think probably the understanding the competition aspect would probably be valuable. I didn't dive too much into the competitor report itself. I can show you that real quick. And
perfect.
That is so that you know who in your area is doing what, right?
So you can kind of stealthily take them down without them even knowing.
Yeah, and I think there we go. I'm sharing. I don't know if people could see that.
That's the other thing. Most of your competitors aren't paying attention to this.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. So two things. So the competitor report, you just click on competitor reports and you open the competitor report. I showed it the first time around, just how to compare businesses, right? But this also shows you every single business in your area that showed up for, say this was realtor near me. This would be every single real estate agent and agency, right? That is in the area, where their location is and where they're prominently showing up, right? So you can kind of see where most of the density is if you go through here and find areas that allow you to take over, like, oh, there's not a lot of traffic over in this area, or a lot of people located over on the east side. So there's a lot of opportunity over there. There's not too much competition going on.
Yeah.
And then additionally, when you're looking at these reports, say that your solve is an 8, right? And when you come up to the top here, see how the 3-pack, their solve is 50, 3, 44, and 30. It's safe to say that if you put in the proper effort and kind of at least emulate what the competition's doing, if not go above and beyond them, that you can expect to get a share of the local voice of around 50 to 40 total, right? The goal is always 100, but keep in mind there's competition, right? You can only get so far if they're competitive, right? So this really points out, like, okay, the people in the 3-pack have a 50, a 40, and a 30. I can expect, if I put my efforts in place, to go from the 8 to a 50 or a 40, right?
Ryan, I just got a wonderful idea that piggybacks off of yesterday's gift card bribe. Mike, it is safe to say a major factor in this is reviews.
Yes. Yeah. Especially when it comes to reviews. I can bring that up for just a second. Right. So when it comes, sorry.
So here's the idea for those that are interested. And then let's check that out is, and Mike, you don't have context for this, but yesterday we talked about sending direct mail, basically a bribe by direct mail. If you do this, I'll give you a gift card. And so you could send direct mail to your past clients or your sphere of influence or both and say, could you do me a huge favor? We're trying to grow our presence on Google. And one of the best ways to do that is through reviews. If you will do me the favor of leaving a review, an honest review and a rating and review, an honest rating and review, I'll give you a $10 Starbucks gift card, which I don't know, that might be a little bit gray hat bribing to get reviews, but it's offline, Google's
I don't
hopefully
think
not listening to this, but that's an idea that just popped up for me as a way to maybe get some more reviews if you don't have many on there.
Yeah. On the reviews aspect, right? Especially when it comes to local rank tracking. Sorry, I present my screen on everything I do, right? So we're gonna bring up this. Let me perfect. We'll do this one. There we go. Perfect. Right. So this example for this Verizon, and see how they have some ranking over here, but they don't have a lot of ranking going on over here. A big way to start ranking and attacking these areas is to get a client on this pin, then have them leave a review like from their house kind of thing. It doesn't really necessarily need to be from their house because Google knows where they live, which is creepy. I know that's kind of creepy to say, but getting reviews from local areas in the area right here will help your rankings in these areas. So going and following up with your clients and saying, hey, please leave me a review will drastically help make changes to ranking in these areas for sure. A lot of people just ask for reviews. They don't really think about the aspect of where the review is coming from a locality standpoint.
Yeah, so I had no idea that that's relevant, because one of the other recommendation I was going to make to folks is if you have other realtors that you've referred business with or done business with, that's a great way to get reviews. The problem is if they're out of the area, they're not as relevant from that perspective as getting someone who's in the home that you helped them buy that also is an area that you'd like to get more clients to go and leave the review, which leads me back to the gift card bribe idea. And if you're uncomfortable with the bribe, I don't think there's anything wrong with sending a postcard or a note card that simply asks for their help. Hey, we're trying to grow our presence on Google. Could you do me a huge favor and take 60 seconds and go leave me a rating and review here, and have the QR code scan go right to your reviews link on Google, right? I'm doing that in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the gift card or just the gift card bribe or the postcard. Like that's an easy, it's an easy, smart thing to do. And you could even build that out as, you could do it as a one-off campaign, but you could also do it as part of your, when you get someone under contract, you could have it fire out that off. Or, I mean, you can obviously ask them in person also. But, depending on how intimately, related to the person you are and so forth, it might just be easier and less dramatic.
I've actually done a lot of this, right? So the in-person, I prefer the in-person to be the first time that it's brought up, right?
Yeah.
But when you bring it up in person, it's always like, oh yeah, I'll definitely do that when I have a second. Absolutely. Right. And then it stops there. Right. So I ask in person and then I wait a week, maybe two, right? And I have an automatic email go out saying, hey, we talked about you leaving me a review. I just wanted to make it easier for you to leave me a review. Here's a direct link, right? Yeah. And that just gives, like, you've already asked in person. You're not asking for them for the review in the email. You're just saying, hey, I'm trying to make this easier for you to leave me a review. Here's the link, right? And that's been successful for me.
Love it. Love it. Mike, this was awesome. We've taken over a half an hour of your time. This was super helpful. Any last points or bits of information for those that might be curious or be interested in checking out Local Falcon?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I got distracted by the comment that popped up for a second.
Yeah, no.
It's just localfalcon.com, right? Do we have a special link at all, Josh, or anything?
Nope, just localfalcon.com. Localfalcon.com is where you can go check it out and do the scan. And, I would highly recommend go and do that and implement the recommendations. For me, like literally, I did that while we were on here with Mike, as he pointed out the fact that, like, hey, those are in your scan. And I was curious what it said.
We tested a lot of those. And it's, a lot of the times there was a local photographer that just set up their Google business profile. So we tested just one of the recommendations on the photographer's business listing. And the change was, it wasn't like there's still a brand new listing. It wasn't like, oh, they're number one, right? But it jumped like 6 or 7 spots just by being in the right category, because the category is a huge aspect. But you'll keep me on here forever if
Yeah. So Dave, can non-Gmail users leave a Google review? I believe so. I think.
I don't actually know. I don't think you're required to have a Gmail account, but it may be. I've never looked into that. I've just always had a Google account, and everyone I know kind of has a Google account, you know?
And I wonder if Google maybe weights them differently if you do it with I don't know, but I think the answer is yes, Dave, but maybe
I believe
maybe
it
Google
is,
it.
yes.
I don't know.
It's kind of one of those things where like I'm in the environment and everyone around me is in the environment. So I've never tested whether I can do it without a Gmail account because everyone plus myself has a Gmail account, you know?
Yeah. Except for my wife for some inexplicable reason. I have no idea what she's doing. I make fun of her constantly. Anyway, Mike, this was yeah. Shoot. Anyway, this was wonderful. This was fantastic. I appreciate you being a good sport. You're doing this
Thanks for
last
having me
minute.
on.
I threw it on you this morning. This was super helpful. Mark says you do need a Gmail.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, most of the U.S. population, I think, are logged in some form or fashion. And if not, I don't know. You might find a workround in some way.
I
can leave it this
way. Have
way.
a family member who does or something.
I don't want a review from an AOL user or a Hotmail user.
Nobody wants that. No, just kidding. Kind of. Mike, thanks again. It's localfalcon.com, localfalcon.com. We jumped right into things here because I wanted to respect Mike's time. But as always, the Wake Up Real Estate Show is brought to you by Just Listed, Just Sold, powered by Thanks.io, and our mortgage team. If you are planning on showing houses this weekend and you don't want to take, folks who aren't pre-approved out, you should reach out to us. Let us get them pre-approved for you so you know that you're spending time with folks that are ready, willing, and able.
Mike, do you have a house yet?
I do have a house, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yep,
good
I
on
already
you.
got one.
Good on you.
Yeah, refi
sale here.
That was I got
it.
it perfect timing. It was right before everything went a little bit haywire during the pandemic. So
if you have someone, you need some help, you have questions, whatever, you can text or you can reach out to me directly, but you can text 888-403-MORT, 888-403-6678 if you need some help. Tomorrow's follow-up Friday. So we'll have a couple of different things on the follow-up front and more results from the text scripts and the email script and the sponsored message script that we shared on Tuesday. We continue to have more on that. In fact, yesterday, Mike from one of our partners' databases set 5 appointments for Greg, and we got 3 applications on top of those 5 appointments. So 8 engaged people, appointments or applications.
Nice.
So we'll share maybe some of that as well. Mike, thanks again.
Thanks,
Ryan,
Mike.
as always. And we'll see everybody hopefully tomorrow.